back at you. Hello and welcome, and hello. This is Total Spotfest. I am JJ. That right there is Jamie Faulkner. Right over here we got Austin Reddick, and we are back again, boys and girls. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys giving us some of your time. How you boys doing? We it's funny. So we're getting ready before we do we kind of go live, do our little intro there, and Jamie types up our little thing, And what do these three old men talk about? The weather.
Always talking about the weather, sports and the weather.
And them damn kids on my lawn.
Oh, those kids. They digging them ruts into my lawn with their little muscle cars. I don't want to hear nothing about it. Hey, I'm going to tell the HOA about this because this is not right.
See, I've got a little kid next door. I've got to tell to please come on my lawn because he's got like a soccer net, and they're like, we've got the shorter chain link fences, and his soccer net backs up to the fence. And usually at least once every time he's out there each night practicing soccer, which practice your sports, kid, that's fine. He kicks the ball over the fence. And then he comes around, he knocks on the door. He's like, hey, can you go grab my soccer ball? And I'm like, bro, as long as the dogs aren't out there, just go get it yourself. Like, stop coming and knocking on the door, making me go out and get the soccer ball. You could just jump the fence and get it.
This is not 8-foot privacy, This is a chain link.
Hey, he's got
jumper.
respect for you, man. Like,
I do appreciate being respectful, but now, like, dude, you kick it over like once a night. You got free reign. Just make sure the dogs aren't out. Just hop over and grab that shit and go back. And like everyone's life is easier.
I mean, I'm right there with you. Well, gentlemen, I think it's safe to say my week has sucked. Definitely started off with a terrible Sunday. We're not going to get into it, but ladies and gentlemen, you're one of the 93 million people who tuned in, then you know. But it's okay. It's okay because we got blessed with some great wrestling this week all the way around.
Sure shit did.
I mean, Dynamite was amazing. But we got to talk about another show. NXT was really solid. I enjoyed that a lot. I don't know if you guys got a chance to do that. Raw wasn't terrible either. It's shortened. Like, it's not the full 3 hours anymore. It's like it kind of floats on time. It has no just like set time anymore. It's like, and the show's done, which I kind of dig. But the show that, gentlemen, I feel like we really need to talk about is Collision. Can we start there?
We have treated Collision, like most of America, as the wrestling redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, it's weird that, like, Rampage went away and Collision just kind of became the new Rampage. Like, if you catch the occasional episode, whatever. That is the best kept secret in pro wrestling right now. Because Collision has been phenomenal for weeks. And this weekend's Collision especially was one of the best just 2 hours of pro wrestling I have seen in quite some time.
So everybody, if you've watched the show, we stand for a couple people on this show, right? One is Brian Keith. And everybody and their mother probably saw the clip from the Brian Keith and Bandito match. Holy bajoli Batman. That spot one was amazing. And that forced me, like, you know what? I'm going to watch this because I record it every week and I watch like half of them. I'm not even going to lie.
Same.
But this show was the best live wrestling show I have seen on TV this year. And I know we're in February, but I can't think of anything that even scratches the surface of how great this is. And Big Rob, where have you been?
Big Rob.
I have missed you.
Yeah, Collision. It's weird because I don't know what AEW could do differently to make you realize you should be watching Collision. Because it's not like nothing important ever happens on the show. But it is just a real fun 2 hours of pro wrestling. I think the biggest difference between Dynamite and Collision is Dynamite almost seems too dense. Not that that's a bad thing, but they've really got to where Dynamite is just segment to segment and everything is part of a story. Like, They pack a lot into Dynamite. Collision lets things breathe a little bit, but you're still getting good story parts and you're still getting great matches. And yeah, this week's Collision opened up with a real fun 3-way trios match. Danny Garcia, Daddy Magic, and Angelo Ruby Soho versus Shane Taylor Promotions versus Undisputed
Ruby.
Kingdom.
Hey, Ruby.
Hey, Ruby. For a match with 9 guys in it, I mean, granted, 9 very talented dudes, phenomenal triple threat trios. You got an absolute phenomenal main event between Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe.
Holy shit, yes.
Which you had Mark Briscoe bleeding buckets in that too.
Of course
great.
you did.
You had, as always, just a fantastic Harley Cameron segment. She did her Harley halftime show in the ring with 2 guitars, playing and singing till Mercedes came out, where they finally pulled the trigger on doing that match in Australia. And we are gonna pop a pin in that till later. Because I got thoughts on all that.
Ooh.
Why? I got a bold prediction too.
You got 10 minutes ish of Thunder Rosa and Penelope Ford in just a very solid, just kind of middle of the show. Hey, here's 10 minutes of women's wrestling. And you got Megan Bain coming out, which they're pushing pretty hard. Just a great show from top to bottom. Like I said, a little bit slower pace. Things had a little bit more time to breathe. But man, was that just a great pro wrestling show.
And for what it's worth, now, to be fair, I did not watch this week's Collision because I'm much like Jamie, same way, right? You know, I record it, but catch parts of it here and there because all sorts of other stuff. And it is on a weird night. I know. Saturday, things going on, right? Out doing stuff with friends and family, and there's sports on, you know, and all these things and everything. But it's not for lack of them advertising it, because they push the living piss out of Collision. I mean, half of what you get on Dynamite is on Collision, this a promo for Collision coming up. Secondly, we need to lobby hard for it to be Angelo Soho.
Take his wife's name. That'd be hilarious.
Do the Mike Nellis thing.
Yeah. But if Angelo Soho, I mean, it's got a catch to it. Just saying.
You're reaching, bro.
I'm reaching. All right.
But
just so a general PSA to everyone
Angelo
that's not tuning into Collision. Get yourself a Max subscription, because now they're all on Max. Don't worry about catching it live Saturday night if you got things going on. Sunday morning, get up, make yourself a cup of coffee, watch some pro wrestling. Always worth the time.
Yeah. You can watch Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, so you have your Saturday morning cartoon, and then you can watch that. Which, if you happen to have watched that cartoon, it's pretty messed up in like all the right ways.
I mean, well, just if you follow along, even if you don't watch it, but you just kind of dip in to learn a little bit about some of the premise, what they got going on there. Yeah, it's some fucked up shit.
The Harley Quinn animated series might be the most creative thing they've done with a superhero property. Because if you haven't seen it, not that we have to go into a very long tangent, because I could talk for hours about how good that show is. Yeah. But they bring in everybody in the DC universe, but everyone is kind of messed up in different ways. It's so good. If you haven't seen, like, the Max subscription for that alone is worth it, but you get that plus AEW, like, what's not to like? Well worth the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. But for all those people who aren't watching Collision, I got one thing to say to you. What's wrong with you? Come on, man. Like Chris Tucker said it best, but I tried. You give yourself an hour and 30 minutes, because you can fast forward through the commercials and enjoy the show, because that show did really well. Like, again, it brought Megan Bain out to start something maybe with Megan Bain and Thunder Rosa, which we'll put a pin in Megan Bain, because I got lots of thoughts about that one.
Okay.
But gentlemen, we need to just bang the Collision drum harder and harder every chance we get. I think that's gonna be a part of our regular show now.
I think we need to do a quick Collision recap each week because it deserves it.
Well,
Also,
this week there's not going to be a Collision because we have Grand Slam going in that Saturday.
Collision Grand Slam. One more thing from this last week's Collision really quick that I forgot to mention, but I would be doing a disservice if I didn't say it. LFI is the coolest looking group of 3 dudes in the history of pro wrestling. Like, if you go back and watch last week's Collision, watch their entrance, Dralistico, Roosh, and Black Taurus, just looking like the dopest dudes to ever approach the wrestling ring.
Can we also talk about Hologram coming back and being under blue lights and just like going nuts and like he should just wrestle under blue lights the entire time? Like what they tried to do with Sin Cara?
It's wild that Hologram is that over with the crowd when AEW's got a million really rad luchas that look cooler. But like Hologram just works, man.
Well, Hologram got over naturally too. I mean, it's not like it's completely. It's not like Curry Man stick out of nowhere, right? You know, it's. Hey, I will take whatever it takes to get whatever lucha over. I am for.
Yeah.
That actually that brings up something I was thinking about watching the show last weekend that I would like to ask y'all and our audience if anyone would like to chime in. What would y'all think about AEW having a lucha title? Maybe not even adding a new one. Maybe turning the international title into a lucha. Just have a lucha division with its own title.
Almost like the old school cruiserweight WCW.
I was just gonna say, man, WCW cruiserweights.
Like,
I wouldn't mind that. I think that for what it's worth, and Jamie, I think we've had this talk before quite a bit, but I feel like there's a little convolution there because you have, what's the secondary title? TNT or international, right? It feels a little muddy with that. I feel like if you do something like that, like make one of them specialized, I like the idea, right? I do like the idea.
I would like to see them make the international title like a lucha title, 20 count on the floor, like bring in the lucha rules and all that.
All lucha rules.
And then make the continental title more of your strong style, Japanese style matches. And like have each title and the people going for it kind of have a little bit more direction instead of just like, we've got 4 singles titles, just pick one.
So
just pick one.
Hopefully everybody on this show, that's actually
Big Rob, you are a genius.
Yes.
Big Rob chimed in asking, what about them making a third brand all lucha? Yeah, put a show out, a 1-hour lucha show every week. I would tune in every single week without fail.
Yeah, LAEW. So you gentlemen know that there is a certain wrestler that's towards the upper echelon of my favorites, and that's Chris Jericho. And I fell madly in love with that a very particular Chris Jericho, right? The cruiserweight champion, Chris Jericho. That is very important because when you're saying, hey, should there be something, I am 1 gajillion % behind the idea of them having their own cruiserweight, something like that, a junior AEW junior champion, something like that, kind of how IWGP does something like that. Like, do something like that. I agree. I think that just hits hard, and you have a great show to put on Collision.
I mean, because they already got something like that with ROH, with the Pure Championship, right? And they have their version of it with the Continental, like you said, Austin, which I always forget about because when was the last time you saw that belt on TV?
Last
Saturday,
week.
though.
Oh, yeah. Not just in a passing promo. I'm saying like actually on, like in the ring, anyway.
It's Okada. He doesn't have to wrestle.
Okay. Splitting hairs here, boy. But I like the idea, like you said, you make that one specialized, make this one specialized, so you have like basically 2 main titles, and then you have the specialist stuff, right?
Yeah, give things like a little bit more distinct flavor. And I feel like every time something else gets said, it reminds me of something else that was dope from Collision. The sit-down interview with Buddy Matthews and Okada was phenomenal. Okada's ability to never say more than 3 words, one of which is always bitch, and still get so much character across just blows my mind. Like, if you
special.
definitely go back and watch Collision, the sit down with Buddy Matthews and Okada it's only like 40 seconds long, and it immediately just sucks you in to want to see that title match on Saturday.
That's why he's the greatest. Like, I am an Okada stan until the day I die, and him being over in the United States, I was worried how it translates to the American populace. Crushing it, just crushing it.
Yeah.
His facial expressions do everything. His mannerisms, his charisma. Yeah.
All right, I think I'm done mentioning Collision now.
Okay.
Are we ready to talk Dynamite?
Let's go. Let's go talk about Dynamite. Return of the 7-match Dynamite.
Revenge of the Sith, right? Yes, this is not the rule of 2. This is not Monday Night Raw where they only have 2 matches. Sorry. Small dig. Holy crap, gentlemen. There was a lot going on in this, and I loved everything, even the ending, even though we've talked about how the Death Riders are we're kind of over the whole thing. But I kind of like the fact that they're finally making light of it, like how everybody's sick of it. And is it like 2 months too late? Maybe, but
I mean, it's one of those things when you're self-aware, you could poke fun at it more, and I think it made it better, right? I think Moxley did a good job tonight with just kind of like his part in this whole thing, right? The briefcase that is definitely not holding the belt right at this time by any stretch of the imagination, just saying, right? I like how they kind of broke open the fourth wall on that one too, right? And so, yeah. Now they did kind of go with Jamie, ending it with, we're going to be. They made the main event for Revolution, so we do got to put up with this for at least another month. But are you good with the direction they're taking it now, Austin? Or are you still just kind of indifferent to the whole thing?
I hated the ending of Dynamite tonight.
Okay.
And I will say it was better than most of what they've done with the Death Riders storyline for the last 2 months. But that bar is just a hair above the floor right now. My biggest problem with it is that Jay White and Cope should be switched. It should be Jay White going after the title and Cope backing him up. But for a night where the crowd was super hot and everything else, they weren't quiet for this, but they clearly weren't as hot for this as they were for the entire rest of the show. And it made no sense to me. Like, I liked the beginning when they stole the title. I thought that was a chance they were going to start course correcting a little bit. Do what I was talking about weeks ago is have your babyface tell Mox, like, hey, man, this isn't about bringing anybody up, making anything better. You just want to be champion. Instead, we got Cope getting on the mic and going, you don't care about this title at all. Well, that's what Mox has been saying for 4 months now. Like, repeating his words. Cope as a babyface does nothing for me. The crowd, he comes out with the briefcase and the crowd is literally chanting, open it. And he's like, how about instead I try and get my spiky club over and I'm just going to hit it and not actually open it and give y'all. The babyface is like deliberately defying what the crowd is chanting for him to do. Like, this worked on absolutely 0 levels for me.
But as well as I do what this is setting up, right? Like, the wrestling mind knows that this is all setting up for Cope to win and Christian to cash in on Cope. Like, it is like the most telegraphed thing in the world I'm seeing right now.
There's nobody else Christian can cash that thing in on. If it's not Cope, he never cashes it in. Let's be honest.
How is that good?
It is.
Like, I get the thought process of like, oh, Christian cat. Well, one, then we're just back to where we were over a year ago with Cope and Christian. And two, you've got so many super hot acts right now. Among those is not Christian because he's cooled off quite a bit. Even since we were at Dynamite 2 months ago or whatever it was, he's been appearing less. He's been feuding with Hook. You've had this storyline where Mox has hijacked the title for months, saying he's waiting for someone to step up and challenge him of like the young guys. Is having a 50-something-year-old Cope beat him for it, even if we get the Christian cash in after. Like, is that good in any regard?
Well, we're not saying it makes sense, nor are we saying it's a quality turn on this angle.
I get where
but
the
we're
thought,
saying
the idea.
it's what's going to happen.
And it seems likely. I'm just saying, please don't.
I mean, the reality is this: that they had. And one of you has me echoing on your speakers, by the way, through the audio. But we had Darby Allin. They took him out. He's been written off, right? The story for the time being. Same thing with, Orange Cassidy, right? They were the ones leading the charge for the AEW originals, the youngsters, even though Orange isn't really a youngster. You know what I mean, though, right? Obviously, Hangman is the one who you can point the big finger to, but they're not ready to kind of put him in that direction yet. They got a bigger ramp they're building for him, okay? I don't disagree with your statement at all, but everything that says what they've done with the way that they progress this whole story, it doesn't really matter if it makes sense or it's the best optic thing to do. It's obviously the way they're going with it.
I am still holding out hope that Mox leaves Revolution still the champion, which that's how little I want Cope to win that match and win the AEW title. Is that like, just give me more of Mox hijacking the belt instead of that. There's a fix here. One, for tonight, what would have made that ending even better is if Cope started bashing the briefcase, it opened, and as JJ has been saying this entire time, the belt's not in there.
Or there's shards of the belt in there or something like that.
Yeah, like, that's a fun, different twist. All right, you got something there. The way to save this is Mox goes over at Revolution, and as he's celebrating, we get the return of Eddie Kingston. I think that puts some fire right behind this. I would just have Kingston win the title. Honestly, if you're not gonna put it on Omega, Ospreay, or any of the amazing wrestlers that probably should be holding that belt now, Cope's just not the guy that needs to beat Mox for this title.
I get that, and you're right. Like, I will not disagree with that statement, but put your Tony Khan hat on. Who is still a draw, even though he's 50-something?
I don't think Cope's much of a draw anymore.
You would think, but you are also got to think from the Tony Khan standpoint, who is a mark just like you and I. And he is a mark for the Attitude Era.
No, Tony Khan is not a mark. Tony Khan is a sicko.
That's right. That's right.
And that's why I think this still could go to someone else taking that title.
This is a man whose favorite movie is now admittedly and bashfully known to be Time Cop. Time Cop.
You know what I'd really like to see, instead of Cope winning and Christian cashing in? I would like to see Christian come try and cash in at the end of the match. And that's how Mox ends up retaining that belt.
A three-way, and then he beats... Okay.
I can see that.
And then we clear up it's not a briefcase, it's a clipboard thing. And we get Mox winning. That's not just Death Riders run out and interfere and he hits a finish and wins. Like, it's something kind of different. That's what I would like to see, rather than Cope just winning the Christian cashing.
So Big Rob brings this up here. Cope seems like he doesn't care about the title because he was about to smash the briefcase. Cope out here acting like Cody and listening only to himself. I don't think that's that. I think Copeland believes it is the year of our Lord 2006.
Yeah.
I don't think he's looked in a mirror lately. And he doesn't realize that it's 2025, and he is not a young man, and he doesn't look like a young man. He even made a play on it. I used to carry around briefcases like this, right? Like, I think Copeland's trying desperately to recapture some, ruthless aggression era edginess.
Yeah, and I think that's why he doesn't really work as a babyface now. He is bordering dangerously close into Chris Jericho territory.
Ooh. Ooh.
Not quite there yet, but he's tiptoeing.
Your throat. The man got embarrassed on Sunday. Let him be, okay, Austin.
hey, you can't use the C word like that.
No. 2022 to 2025 Chris Jericho territory. Not classic. But that only drives the point home further. I am historically an edgehead.
Yeah.
Like, I was at WrestleMania 17, the three-way ladder match. That was my guy when I was a teenager. Like, I would like nothing more than like that Edge or Cope as he is now. But just like Chris Jericho, like, you're not that guy anymore.
Father Time doth visited.
But Big Rob did have a nice point in the chat. I do agree Cope versus Mox at Revolution will be a gimmick match because I don't think anyone really wants to see Cope versus Mox in just a wrestling match.
Not at all. Like, no holds barred or in a cage. So the rest of the whatever, the Death Riders can't get in there, something.
See, hear me out. I am going to fully support the idea of Copeland winning and then Christian casting in immediately. For this reason, Austin. It gets the belt away from Moxley so they can just do the regular Death Rider thing without Sans title because they don't need it, right? You're moving that belt in a natural progression to where it should be as well. You say, what do you mean? Christian being that progression? Yes. Who was Christian's feud before this whole Moxley thing and everything came up? Who was his last feud before returning to Hook? Jay White, who's currently in the middle of this. Jay White can be the one who quickly takes the belt off of Copeland. And then you've got, Hangman waiting in the wings. And tell me you don't want to see Hangman Jay White 3 for the title at whatever pay-per-view coming up this late spring, early summer would it fall into.
I would not be sad about this eventually getting us to Hangman and Jay White. But as I said when we jumped into Dynamite, could we have just flipped Cope and Jay White? And could we not just get Mox and Jay White at Revolution?
It's a quicker way to get there. Yes. You're not wrong.
Hey, you're playing chess. He's playing checkers. It's fine. Okay, so we've spent a little bit too much time on this conversation.
A little bit? Yes.
I think we all can agree that we don't agree. And that's fine. That's not America, but that's us. Okay? All right. So moving on, let's just go ahead and stay with the Death Riders. You opened up with, you didn't open up because actually there was a match before this, but like the first like legit match was the Death Riders going up against the Undisputed Kingdom of the Undisputed Era, if you will. Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Adam Cole. Gentlemen, did you enjoy this match? Because I did.
I enjoyed it. I feel it's unfortunate that it took too long. They did this briefly when they first got into AEW, right? And it took too long to get back to the thing that worked. And I just feel it's like for the Undisputed, it's a little too late kind of now. Like maybe they could build some momentum on them again. But this is what people wanted the whole time that they were not together in AEW. So it was good to see the three of them back together.
Yeah, like the match was one of the best trios matches they've had in a while. The only problem I had was not with the match itself. Commentary even mentioned it. The trios titles had not been defended since November. We are in mid-February. Why aren't we trotting Yuta, Claudio, and Pac out there at least every other week to defend those championships against any three guys you want to throw together? But I'm glad we got it tonight. And I like the finish too. It was kind of a more creative way to cheat and get the win. They built it up where it looked like Undisputed Era Kingdom team. I forget Kingdom, I guess. Would have won.
Era Kingdom team.
Yeah, but solid match.
Yeah. The creativity of the end, I definitely enjoyed that. But if you are not going to have the Death Riders, again, goes back to Moxley with the damn belt. If you're not going to have them defend it, then put it on somebody else who will. And I can think of 7 trios that I would much rather have this on.
Yeah.
Hell, I mean, I would take the Outrunners plus Bandito. Like, yes.
Put them on LFI, the coolest looking dudes in pro wrestling.
Yes.
Put them wherever. Although, can we just a moment of silence for the continued mega heel build they're doing on Wheeler Yuta?
Yeah.
I mean,
doing
despite
with Yuta.
Yeah, despite everything we've bitched about Death Runners, this mega heel like Yuta build, the way they're setting it, I mean, he's got heat with the crowd, and I love it. So good work for him.
I gotta say, I feel like they're gonna hold those trios titles for a while though, for no other reason than I don't understand why else Pac is with the Death Riders, aside from he just happens to be champs with 2 of them, so he just tags along and beats people up. Because he seems to have no other connection with that group.
Yeah, it's okay. It's like his wardrobe has no other outfits other than his gear.
So, gentlemen, speaking of this, like this also ties into something else. I just recently rewatched a family favorite of mine when I was a child, Conan the Barbarian. Arnold at his most Arnold. Like, it is absolutely great. And then when I'm watching it, I see this character of Subutai. You remember Subutai? The marksman? I'm like, that looks like fucking Wheeler Yuta. Like, it so looks like Wheeler Yuta. I was always trying to figure out where I saw it. Now I'm seeing, like, that's Wheeler.
It's
and then there's another person. There's literally another person that looks like somebody else, which I'll get into in just a second, but from this movie. And I'm like, because of that, it makes a lot more reference. Like, it makes sense later. But
do you think Conan the Barbarian is Tony Khan's second favorite movie?
dude, I'm kind of leaning that way. All right. So what do you guys want to go next? You want to talk about, I mean, we already kind of talked about the other trios match, Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata going up against the local talent. That was fun.
And Aaron Solo.
I would say that was not local talent. That was John Cruz. You put some respect on his name.
That's true. He's the one who did the jump and just like looked at.
Yeah, the greatest Mojo walkaway of all time.
He did get the greatest Samoa trip of all time too.
I love the comment that Excalibur made when he got in the match with him. And he goes, John Cruz has a big feud with Samoa Joe. Joe doesn't know about it.
So of course they call out the patriarchy and whatever. It's fine. I'm already ready for those people all to move on. I'm ready for Joe to do his own thing, or maybe just Joe and Shibata. Just no Hook.
Well,
I'm kind of over the Hook thing.
It's a good. You don't need to have. Not every squash match is a Wardlow squash match, right? And I'm fine with the way they did this, right? They showed each of the guys off. You got a lot of Joe in this, right? You got Joe promo. He gave them some like military, the ops. Sure, that's their name now. Cool, whatever. But it was good fan service. Good, yeah. I mean, that's how you do a decent squash match, right?
Yeah. But I would like to see Samoa Joe move on to other things sooner rather than later.
Oh, agreed.
We had 3 squash matches tonight.
Yeah. Talk about the first one real fast. Let's get that out. Let's do that. We can talk about the match that coincides with it.
Yeah, because then we can talk about the ladies and the tag team match. So Max Caster comes out as the greatest wrestler alive, getting all the heat.
With this
Is
trademark.
it X-Pac heat or is it just heat?
No, it's heat. Max Caster,
I think he's done a really good job.
I said last week, it's time to give Max Caster his flowers. He is a refreshing heel, the likes of which we have not seen in AEW in some time.
I mean, he's
an actual heel. Yeah.
He feels like a very like early 90s heel, right?
Yeah.
Like he's got the trademark now and everything, which is a very like, the prop centric, nature, which I love, right? So he feels like that
the genius, the professor, those guys.
Right.
You need that.
DDS.
You need the loudmouth heel that's just going to annoy you until someone comes out and beats his ass.
Well, that's what happened. Because he was running his mouth, and here comes Adam Hangman Page, and Max runs and hides into the crowd, grabbed a sign from somebody, which I thought was absolutely great. He gets his ass chased back into the ring, and then here comes a lariat, boom, 1, 2, 3, and we are seeing the face turn in multiple ways for Adam Hangman Page. Because right after he hopped up on the ropes, looked at the fans went absolutely bonkers for him. And you could see they still care about me. They still care about me. And then that turns into the promo in the back with MJF trying to get under Dustin Rhodes' skin. And then once again, here comes Hanger to little brother MJF. And that's when those two started going. And then fireworks happened there, Joe.
I want your opinion about this before we get into the other match, Austin, because it's definitely the face turn that we've pontificated about. But I like the way they're doing it because it's still kind of like a face turn that's not untrue of the character you've wrote for Hanger for the past year and a half, right? It's more of a self-aware sort of thing than a push to make him face.
Yes. And while I've historically not been a huge MJF guy, MJF did such a good little bit of storytelling in this promo when he told Hanger, "You're not that guy. You don't have the stomach for the things you're trying to do." Like that coming from MJF was just such good storytelling because it's a real fun kind of just like, I don't want to say a mirror because they're not the same. MJF is the guy that you would think would do anything to get ahead, but Hanger has objectively done far worse shit to the people that have opposed him. But the truth is that's not really Hanger, and it probably doesn't sit right. For what we know of the character of Hanger, what the stories they've told, it probably doesn't sit right with him burning Swerve's house down. But MJF on the other side is the guy that would be perfectly fine, but he'll never go to those lengths. Like it was just such a great little bit of storytelling that I already would have been into the match anyway, but that just made me more hyped for seeing them what will inevitably happen at Revolution when they get in the ring together.
So this is the first thing that kind of pissed me off tonight.
Okay.
So as somebody who is a bit of a jokester, I like to tell a joke from time to time, right? And typically no subject is off limits when it comes out of my mouth. Like I'm not afraid to talk about something that just recently happened in the news, whatever, I don't believe in the too soon.
You should see some of the rides we had back in St. Louis at 1 a.m. after a wrestling show.
Yes.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yes. But anyway, this feud, what they're doing, I feel like they're speeding it up too much. This should have been a slow, long burn between these two, and it could have ended up in Double or Nothing. I felt like this is too soon. I feel like they're rushing it a little bit too much for me. Because this is a marquee matchup you want, and I want full face Hanger before we get here, not he's transforming during. Does that make sense? Like, I want this match. I want MJF and I want Hanger, but I don't want it now. I feel like, again, like it's just too soon. Too soon.
You feel like in a month, like in 4 weeks at March 9th is too soon for this to happen.
Yeah, just have them keep crossing paths and stuff like that. Kind of like what they did back in WCW with Sting and son of a biscuit. Rick Rude, I think, when he was over there. Like, not Rick Rude. I don't remember who it was.
But the problem is,
kept crossing paths, and like they stare at each other, and nothing happened. And, like 7 months later, they finally like, okay, we're doing this.
I don't know. I feel like it's actually a good time to do it at Revolution. Right? I don't think you're going to abandon this, but I think because the point is, if you're going with my hypothesis from earlier, right, you need to move him into Jay White, maybe by Double or Nothing, or shortly thereafter. So if you're dragging this out with MJF, and Tony Khan, like we've got a head-to-head scheduled for next week between the two. I mean, you got to get to the match sometime soon here, or else it's just going to get bland and boring.
Yeah,
that's my thought.
I don't think you can draw this out longer. One, MJF has been very clear ever since he wrapped up the Adam Cole business, and we just kind of all agreed to move on because that didn't work out well.
Yes.
He wants to get his belt back. On the flip side, I don't think Hanger's the guy you can slow burn anything with right now, because what we've seen of Hanger over the last year is if you get on his bad side, he is coming after you. He's not just brushing it off and maybe checking in the next week. Like, I think that would be out of character for Hanger to just be doing other stuff. And I think that's everything we've seen with Hanger over the last, since he kind of mostly wrapped up the Swerve business, is whoever slighted him last, he is on them till it's done. Then he's on to the next thing, more or less.
Yeah.
I think this is you've got 3.5 weeks until Revolution to build this up. And I think after Revolution, they should go their separate ways. I don't think you need a long drawn out feud with those two. I also think Hanger probably wins at Revolution, and it would make sense for MJF. He wants to get back to that title as quick as possible. If Hanger beats him, why does he want to keep sticking around the guy that just beat him? He's going to go try and find another angle to get that title. He is the kind of heel that should stay away from the guys that he knows is going to beat his ass. So yeah, I'm good with the shorter turn on this. Let's get it done at Revolution, and let's move them both into different stuff.
Well, in typical circumstances, I am 100% with you. But I guess I might not be conveying. What I'm saying is they are around each other, but they don't engage. Like the pushback, because we talked about this, how MJF at the very beginning walked away like 2 or 3 times at the very beginning. Like, this is perfect. Like, they're just going to cross paths. They're going to get under each other's skin, but neither one of them is truly going to provoke the other one. Well, that happened tonight. And I'm like, oh, you didn't have to do that yet. You could have had MJF like going after Jeff Jarrett and beating his ass, whatever. And then you could have had something going on with Hanger, because like there's a multitude of things to get him ramped up easy, hot, and heavy. I just wanted it to, because these are top guys in your organization. It's like, I felt like it got sped up. I would have loved to have seen it just like that old school. I guess that's that old school me of just they're around each other and they finally do it. Hogan and Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. Got it. I had to, that. How they just were around each other.
Well, I mean, you also are like referring to a time before social media and when the world was just a smidge slower, Jamie. So I'm just gonna say,
I know.
the audience's attention spans aren't what they were back in 1993. Okay.
I get that.
Plus, Hogan Warrior was different. You had two baby faces where you'd see them run into each other every once in a while, and you think, oh, that'll be good when it ever happens. But they both just got other things to do, and you don't have that like personal issue between the two that's going to escalate right away.
All right, you want my hot take?
That's what I was
here?
trying to hope. I was hoping for that. Like they just wouldn't have the personal issue, but they just hate each other.
I get what you're saying. You want my hot take real fast, Austin?
Go for
I know
it.
in 2025 saying this, whatever. I still love that match from WrestleMania 6. One of my favorite matches of all time.
One of the best Hogan and Warrior matches of all time.
Of all time. This is so good. And both men are okay.
Both men hate putting people over.
We found out things. We're still finding out things about one of them, unfortunately. But I still love that match. It's still one of my favorite matches of all time. I don't care.
Same.
Yeah. Well, that not to go down a deep rabbit hole of old pro wrestling, because that's one of my favorite things to ever talk about. That was the perfect circumstance where you had Hogan versus Monster heels forever, and you got something different. You had Hogan against not only a babyface who was as over as him at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was new and exciting. Like the build to it was perfect. It was just the perfect circumstances of everything all around going into that WrestleMania match. And yeah, the match is great. Holds up over time. Like I said, one of the best Hogan and Warrior matches. But there was a lot of other circumstances that kind of went into making that. Just kind of where they both were in their career and with the crowd and all that at the time. It was just that magical thing that happens in pro wrestling where everything lines up and you just get something great.
I mean, that's Swerve and Hanger, but twice. All right. So moving on, let's go ahead and talk about the MJF Dustin Rhodes match. Dustin still got
Dustin
it.
Rhodes.
That's all there is to it. Dustin still got it.
50,
he can still keep going.
53, 54. Well, what is he now, man? His 50s? It's
50, old as hell.
And still got
I can say because he's older than me.
I'm pretty sure he's still younger than Billy Gunn, though.
Well, that's different. Billy is not human. He is 97% steroid and 3% beaver tranquilizer. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, no, this match was good. Dustin still has it. He'll never lose it. Like he's just great at pro wrestling.
He's doing it in his hometown too, which come on, hello.
This was one of the more entertaining MJF matches I've seen in a while as well.
I agree. It's always about that dance partner with him, man. It's always about that dance partner with him.
First
He's
time
not that true chameleon.
First time we've seen MJF wrestle on Dynamite in months too, like wrestle.
Here's where I think they could have gone a different and better direction, and it ties into building up to MJF and Hanger. I would have liked to see Hanger come out and cost MJF this match.
Yeah, same.
I don't think MJF loses anything getting beat by Dustin Rhodes in a match where Hanger comes out and makes that happen. You get the fun pop for Dustin there. And the longer the match went, the more I thought that was going to happen instead of afterwards, which we'll get into a second. But I would have liked to see right before this, MJF backstage is telling Hanger, hey, you're not that guy. Like, you can't stomach doing this evil stuff. Have Hanger come right out and cost him the match and be like, tell me what I won't do, man.
It would be very fitting. I'll give you that. Yeah.
I agree. I think that would have made a lot more sense than how it ended with
I didn't care for the
security getting involved.
It's a typical MJF ending, though, right? Distract the ref, give him a low blow. There's a lot of low blows in this, by the way.
There were. The only thing I didn't like about the ending is I'm over the guy passing out in a submission hold. Like, can we just stop doing that?
No,
You don't
never.
you don't need to protect Dustin Rhodes by having him not tap out, or just have him get pinned. Like, it's fine either way.
Mm.
But he was in a crippler crossface. Nothing about that is going to make you go unconscious. We just gotta stop doing that.
I can see JB turning red over here. JB,
Your logic has no bearing in wrestling, sir. As a current professional wrestler, you know this better than any of us on this show.
We have had this talk, Austin. Just want to let you know.
This isn't me over logicking things. This is making a more entertaining product. Is just have him get pinned or have him tap out. It's fine either way. Like, it doesn't matter.
He's too proud. He's a Texan. He's too
All
proud.
right. I will interject here kind of in the middle of you two, okay? I like it. I feel like they do it too much. I think it loses some of its speciality when you do it too much.
It's
no
only
one's
been
going
good.
blind from it.
It's only been
No
good
one's getting
once
hair.
ever. It has only worked one time in the history of pro wrestling.
Oh.
And that was when Stone Cold was bleeding buckets, and it made sense he would pass out because he lost so much blood at WrestleMania 13.
Because I think he actually did pass out, though.
Well, what about when Moxley did it to Brody Lee?
What did Mox have him in?
Yeah, I mean a rear naked choke, a bulldog
His
choke.
bulldog choke.
A choke puts you unconscious. That's different. You can choke somebody out, not with a crippler crossface.
Okay.
Stop with your logic. You're hurting my feelings. All right. So, gentlemen, let's talk about the ladies for a second because we had some lady stuff, and I definitely want to bring them up because we had 2 ladies matches tonight, and we had a Harley Cameron promo, and we even had Tony Storm promo.
What?
But
what
here's
show
the thing.
is this?
And this is my highlight of the night. This is, I don't care how the match went out. Like, this is how you were supposed to book Camille. This is how you're supposed to do with an enforcer type wrestler. Have them come out there and absolutely beat the shit out of somebody in a matter of 2 minutes and look like they're unfucking stoppable. And that's exactly what they did with Megan Bayne. She looked great.
So what you're saying is they need to do the Jade Cargill with Megan Bayne.
Yes.
Agreed.
But Jade was green. She can actually wrestle.
She's not there just yet. She's not bad. Megan Bayne, I think they need to slow burn her, like have her go out there and truck local talent for a few months. Because I think the biggest thing she is missing is a lack of physical charisma and the presence you want for something like that. She looks like $1 million. She is shoot strong and can yeet women around, which is all great. But she's like early 90s Undertaker where it's just moving slow, but not adding a lot of extra character to it. And I'd like to see that fleshed out before you really get her rocking and rolling. We are not going to have to wait because they are clearly building to something with her, which...
Well, they are building something with her, which I think will help her too. And I think that the other piece of this equation, and Jamie doesn't want to hear this, but at least half the people watching still have no idea who the hell she is.
Oh, you're not wrong. And that's okay.
And I think
she's building an audience because she looks, like you said, looks like she is gorgeous. She is dominating, like she is, like you cannot take your eyes off of her.
And what I was going to get at with that is I like to see them. I like kind of the way that they're going to not just rocket line her into a title, whatever, right? You know, I like the way they're kind of steering it. The way that that there's a pin hanging out there that's going to be pulled out in a second. And that's the way they're steering it, which is smart. But I like to see them do more production with it, right? Have that interest be like even more extravagant. She has the giant headrest, and if you're gonna go that route there, fucking go all out, right? I feel, give it like a bigger light show and then make it seem like she's even more, right? That's what I would want to see. It's like this is wrestling. turn that shit up to 11. Just fucking go ham with it, right?
More production
that
for her would be
really,
great.
really put her over then, because even if you don't know who it is, eventually you'll be like conditioned to be like, oh, this is a big fucking deal.
She is.
I would like to see them do with her what, like you were saying, what we thought they were going to do with Camille. Put her with Penelope Ford. Let them run a couple months with that, with her being Penelope's heater and just trucking people for a while. Turn on her. And then once she's kind of been on TV, had some more time to kind of build up a little more confidence, tighten up the presentation a little bit, then strap the rocket ship to her. Because I think that is in the cards in the future. I'm just worried if they do that too soon, the shine's going to wear off.
Oh, yeah.
I'm personally hoping that they just did she's putting the women's division on notice, going after Thunder Rosa, and then obviously going after Chris Statlander. But, just she's not afraid. She's fearless. She's not afraid to go after anybody. But to your point, I would love to see her get seasoned with somebody else, another person where she is that true enforcer for them. I think that makes a lot of sense to get her. Then you can figure out her package and everything, because she is just so dominating looking, and though she only has one facial expression, pouty lip, I don't know if I'm trying to squeeze out a fart or I'm just trying to look like I'm mad, love her though. I'm not I don't want this to be a slide on her. It's just one of those things, she needs a little bit more this, what Okada's there. She needs to spend some time with Okada. That's what it is.
Are there.
Well, I'm saying that's why I say presentation, right? If you're gonna pull the whole Greek goddess shtick, right? Go all out with it.
Yeah, just do it up, Big Willie style.
You know what would help a lot? Let's stick with the Greek goddess shtick. Give her Stokely Hathaway in a toga.
How much money do I need to give?
That's my answer to everybody.
Your answer to every fucking thing.
Insert
Stokely.
Imagine Stokely Hathaway in a toga with it's not a scroll, but you know what I'm talking about, the ancient Greek parchment tablet thing. That would be phenomenal.
This is the papyrus.
He just keeps calling it.
So she beats the shit out of a local competitor, and then right after, right after, here comes Stat. They had their little stare down. Stat and Penelope Ford had an honestly great match.
Because the best Penelope's looked in a while.
How many times Statlander is the worker of the women's division? She just is so damn good. And Penelope is no slouch of her own. Great match. Was gonna be my match of the night until that tag team match, honestly. Those two had a phenomenal match, and then Megan Bayne comes out and F5s her again.
Well, I think it's one of Penelope. Penelope has looked so much. You can tell she's definitely back into her wrestling form after almost 2 years off, right? She definitely looked good on. I didn't see her on Collision, but she looked good tonight's match. I thought it was fantastic. Stats getting some character by herself, which is something I never thought I'd say. And it's working. And yeah, even if you're going to use these two to kind of just feud each other, it's a great way for Megan. But I think it also does service to Stat.
Austin, anything other than the head shake?
No, I don't think putting her in there with Statlander, putting anyone in there with Statlander is never a bad idea. She'll get the best out of anybody. My only concern is if you're putting her with Statlander right away, I don't think you're having her lose a Statlander. And then if she beats Statlander, you're kind of already pushing her into title contention.
There's only one other direction, right?
I think there is a fix for that. And I'm going to put a pin in that until we get a little bit deeper in the women's division tonight.
Okay.
Because if you are gonna push her hard out the gate, there's a way to do it. But we'll get to that in due time.
So I'm taking my pin out of Conan the Barbarian room. So, like I said, as another person that looked like somebody. Do you remember Valeria, the main woman? Like, do you want to live forever? That lady. Tell me she doesn't look like Chris Statlander.
I can see that.
Okay.
Especially when the Red Sonja version of her, the actress's name is Sandal Bergman. She was the bad guy in Red Sonja, with dark hair. But like, yeah, dude, they look very eerily similar. Like they're just tall and imposing women, and like I just got that vibe. It's just I'm like, that's Chris Statlander. Like maybe I'm just like have AEW on the brain all the damn time or something. I don't know, but that's what I thought.
That's fair.
Speaking of pins, you had another one to pull out of the women's division tonight.
Well, did you happen to watch Tony's stuff from Collision? I don't know if you guys saw it in the movie theater. That was great.
And the segment they did with Mariah and Tony on Collision was great as well.
Are you coming around to this Tony angle at all, Austin?
So just to be clear, I am not out on anything Tony Storm does.
Never said you were.
It's still been good. I still think going right back to Timeless was the wrong move. But they did that. That's what we got. It's still going to be good no matter what. I have flip-flopped on what I think is going to happen next Saturday, though.
Ooh.
I think Tony's losing.
Okay.
I think Tony's losing too. That's my big hot take as well.
Let's stay on Tony Mariah, and then we'll get into the reason why Tony.
I still think Tony's winning. So there.
Tony's losing. I'm calling it now, especially after Mariah's really good promo tonight.
Promo was phenomenal tonight.
She's so damn good. Like,
all right,
we've seen her blossom in front of our eyes as legit the top heel of the women's division.
Well, here's what I will say. One Australian woman is winning on Saturday.
100%.
Yeah.
One of them is.
Yes, one of them is. And that's the pin we still have to pull here in just a few.
It's like you on my side.
That's why I have completely flip-flopped on this. But we'll stick with Tony Mariah.
You're flipping all over the damn place.
This is why we're going to stick with Tony Mariah right now. They reintroduced Luther on Saturday at Collision. And I did say weeks ago, a good way to do this would be Luther comes out and costs Tony the match. Mariah cut a phenomenal promo tonight. Mariah has not even peaked yet. I think she retains in Australia. Their segment on Collision, if you didn't see it, Tony Storm beat up a local competitor Mariah May beat up a local competitor who kind of looked like Tony Storm. After the match, pulled out a black robe and some lipstick, put it all over her. Luther comes out and has the bloody shoe on a platter. And while Mariah's distracted and chases Luther off, Tony Storm has switched places with the local competitor that looked like her. So Mariah picks up the local competitor. It's actually Tony Storm, and then they fight. Mariah escapes through the crowd. Great storytelling, great character work there. But do y'all have anything else on Mariah and Tony before we get to the star of the women's division?
No, keep going with this here. We're in a good.
Let's feel
these
the rap.
interweave. Let's go.
It's time
What's
to
up,
feel
Blue
the rap.
Jay?
And this is why, because again, we've all established one Australian is winning on Saturday, one is losing. They are fucking up if Harley Cameron does not win on Saturday.
Couldn't agree more.
Like, it has never been more the time to pull that trigger than it is with Harley Cameron right now. I talked about at the beginning of the show, we talked about Collision. Her segment on Saturday was phenomenal. Her rap video, rapping over Mercedes music with the puppet tonight, and then cutting into a phenomenal babyface promo. And reminding everyone that she's also fluent in Mandarin because she's the most talented woman that has ever existed.
She's fluent in like 6 languages, by the way.
There has never been more of the time to put a title on someone than it is to put that title on Harley this Saturday in Australia. She needs to beat Mercedes. And now I'm going to pull that other pin I'd put in about if you're going to push Megan Bayne to the moon, Harley Cameron wins the TBS title on Saturday. Megan Bayne squashes her for it next week or right after the Statlander thing wraps up.
God, I hope not. Though.
That gets heat on her. That is heat right there.
Oh.
Harley does not need a long run, but Harley needs to win on Saturday.
Harley must win. Like Harley wins or we riot. That's how I feel.
I would like to see Harley win, but knowing Tony Khan as well as we do, I just feel like she's going to come up with this short. Tony Storm gets that hometown victory. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Here's the thing. Mercedes Moné, people can talk shit about her. She's arguably the best women's wrestler in the world, like actual wrestler. She also does what's right for business. She has done that multiple times in her career. She's said it multiple times. She loves women's wrestling, and she loves what she's doing. She knows the right play here is for Harley to win. She knows it.
Can she convince Tony?
Last time I checked, Mercedes has a little bit of creative control.
Okay. Well,
this is the moment.
I pray to God you're both right. Honest to God. I've just been burnt enough I've been burnt off enough by this man. I feel like it's going to be the complete other way.
I also think Mercedes needs to lose and Mariah needs to win, because then before too long we get into Mercedes and Mariah, which I think works for everybody.
I
love that too. Okay, well.
And just remember, gentlemen, 70% of the time, I'm right every time. My Marstradamus record is pretty solid. It's better than Patrick Mahomes' completion percentage.
Yeah, we did have another just tiny bit from the women's division that we haven't touched on yet that happened tonight. And that was Marina Shafir attacking Willow Nightingale.
Yes.
So we're not getting Beth Phoenix, guys.
I didn't think we were.
No. No, they've already inserted Willow kind of into this story. I mean, you can still hope, but it's if the only place we would get Beth Phoenix is going to be this Saturday. If it doesn't happen this Saturday, it's definitely never happening. And I'm good with it, honestly, if it doesn't happen, just because I'm sorry, your wife can't save you, Cope.
I would rather see Beth Phoenix than Cope. Give me Beth Phoenix and Mox at Revolution.
Fuck yeah, we would.
Ain't gonna happen, but yeah, I don't think we're getting Beth Phoenix. I would love to see her show up in AEW, but to work with the women. I don't really give a shit about her showing up just to get injected in the storyline that no one's too high on anyway.
Yeah. Just to go after China Shafir.
If you're going to bring in Beth Phoenix, give us Beth Phoenix and Megan Bayne.
I mean, that'd be a good way if you really want to push Megan Bayne. That's not a bad way to do it.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to what I felt, I mean, it was the main event, and I felt like it was the match of the night. And that comes with very high praise because there were some good matches tonight, and there's a lot of good stuff going on tonight. And that tag team match between the Guns and the Hurt Syndicate, the crowd was HOTTOGO for. Like, they were all about it. Yes, it's a hot to go reference for all of you guys who are like, what the hell did Jamie just do? I have teenage daughters. I am sorry. But
you don't have to make excuses and say you have teenage daughters. Chapel Roan is a very entertaining pop musician. Like, she's got some good songs.
Yeah, Pink Pony Club, baby. Anyway, so I know. You got nothing. You got nothing.
Okay,
It's fine. It's fine. She's got a great voice.
I did get tickets to Memphis Mayfire in May, so there's that. But yeah, whoever the fuck you're talking about.
Cool. Well, this match, gentlemen, I thought fucked, and it fucked hard. And the best thrust kick, super kick in the business is easily Shelton Benjamin.
I was interested to see how the Guns would look in this, right? And they came out. I think they did the right sort of like getting beat up, coming back, balanced the way that they did it. I think the Guns looked great. I think Hurt Business looked amazing though. I mean,
see, I thought the Guns looked a little sloppy tonight. Not bad. Didn't take away from the match. Still a great match.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they looked like two dudes that hadn't really wrestled in 4 months.
Well,
which they are.
Yeah.
Like, they were out. They were just kind of mistiming on a few things.
Yeah.
Nothing that I would straight up call a botch. Again, nothing that took away from the match. But I kind of would have liked them to see get just 2 to 3 weeks of just a couple tag matches on Dynamite or Collision, just kind of shake some rust off. What I appreciate the most about this match is the awareness that Tony Khan has that the crowd likes the Hurt Syndicate or Hurt Business. I always forget which one's which, but they hurt people. And the crowd was chanting, "We hurt people." And not trying to just drive home like, nope, they're bad guys, they're heels. We're just going to have them be bad guys and heels. Crowd loved them. They didn't really need to cheat. They didn't really need to wrestle like heels. And then post-match, you gave them a heel team to go against next.
You definitely did. And I do want to talk about the scary spot from Austin Gunn when he got pushed over. It looked like his head clipped the hardest part of the ring. But, gentlemen, I have a funny story for you. During this match, I was watching it with Bailey, and we're just sitting there, and then they're talking about Shelton Benjamin. And my wife goes, "Who did they just say?" I'm like, "Oh, this is Hurt Business. Got Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin." She's like, "Shelton Benjamin, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time." And I'm like, first off, the fact that you remember that name, one, makes me happy. That means I've rubbed off a little bit of wrestling into you. And two, it's like you knew that he's been a name for a while. So kudos to my wife for remembering Shelton Benjamin. Because first, can we just all agree Shelton Benjamin this is the best he's looked since his IC run when his mama was around?
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyone with eyes that watches pro wrestling has always known Shelton Benjamin is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But he spent the better part of 2 decades in a place that just wanted him to be just another guy. And now, and this is why it's great that a place like AEW exists. A guy like Shelton Benjamin gets his victory lap where he can go out there and show everyone yeah, I can still go. I always could. And the crowd appreciates him for it.
I'm amazed your wife pulled out Shelton Benjamin, though, out of nowhere. It's like, wait, what?
I know. It would just blindside me. I'm just sitting there what? You know who Shelton Benjamin is? But I do like the fact that, they're going up against the Murder Machines next. I think that's a great, big, meaty men slapping meat, feud that I want. I mean, obviously, we know that it's going to end up with them and the Bucks because the Bucks just lost their IWGP Tag Team Championships. So they'll be on their way back to the States. And I think, in my heart of hearts, that match is going to be insane.
I don't think you can rule out the Guns coming around. I think we all agreed last week you don't need the Guns winning it,
Yeah.
Especially you don't want to take this short of a run for the Hurt Syndicate. But I like the way that you insert them in here, give them good pop. Austin's point, let them do some work here, right? Especially if they're going to be detached from Jay White for the next little bit. Well, you got Jay White doing his own thing. And then you can give them the big run, right? Whether it's against the Hurt Syndicate or the Bucks or both. I don't think you'll lose because Who wins? Tag team wrestling.
Yeah, can we just take a second to appreciate that the tag titles main evented Dynamite tonight, and it was a super match the crowd was into.
How about we just appreciate the fact that a belt was up for grabs in AEW on
Two
national
belts.
TV.
Well, technically 5 belts.
Well, 5, but two titles.
2 titles, 5 belts.
We've seen those titles more than any other belt combined.
It's wild how much just putting those titles on Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley has elevated the tag division over the course of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks, whatever it's been.
I just love how over they are. They're getting their flowers. And then, you know, when a certain friend that we'll bring up here in a minute when we go talk WWE is available, probably in 90 days, he'll be coming over.
Well, wait, let's talk about that, because that was Dynamite, and there is some WWE news we wanted to talk about.
There is a little bit of WWE news on multiple fronts, but this past week was Axe Week. So 12 people were released this past week, and I'll read you off everybody. You had Duke Hudson, who was a part of Chase U. He's no longer there. You had Sonya Deville. She did not get released. They're just not renewing her contract. Giovanni Vinci, who was a part of Imperium, but then he started doing his own thing. They didn't have anything for him. He's gone. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows are gone again for like
fourth
the
time,
17th
fifth time. Uno,
yeah. Electra Lopez is gone. I know she was doing stuff with I forgot Phantasmo, Legado del Phantasmo. Shocking one for me was AOP is officially gone. Akam Razar and Paul Ellering all gone again. This is their second time out.
That didn't shock me. What shocked me was
me.
them getting rehired in the first place.
I know.
Agreed.
But the big 3 for me, well, actually big 2, because Cedric Alexander was released. That was the friend that I was saying, who was also a former member of the Hurt Business, who kind of got the short end of the stick there. But Blair Davenport, a.k.a. B. Priestley, just recently got released as well. She just got called up last year to be a part of the main roster, and they did nothing with her.
Yeah.
I think it's more on WWE than her. And then Isla Dawn.
Yeah, wasn't she just a tag champ like months ago?
Months ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's really good. Really good.
And is it maybe just they have so many women that, you know, I don't know, but those 2 definitely were the ones that got me, especially Blair Davenport, like you said. Because she's been with him for a good little bit, and yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, so those were some releases from WWE. Well, AEW also had a couple that officially got announced, and one played a very big role. So Miro is officially no longer under his contract. They let him out of his contract. And one Ricky Starks was also released from his contract.
And you would know that because the very next night he was on NXT.
He was on NXT. And the one thing about WWE about this, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because I actually have some thoughts. They didn't say his name. They made sure not to say Ricky's name. The crowd was the one saying Ricky's name. So my question to you, gentlemen, and this is coming from a petty place in my big old heart. I thought AEW doesn't make stars. How did everybody know Ricky Starks' name?
That's a very good question, Jamie.
Well, the problem is, if you thought AEW doesn't make stars, you're just listening to dipshits on the internet and not watching AEW.
For the record, we are not dipshits.
Yeah. Very interesting that they clearly didn't say his name. And when they they posted it on YouTube or Twitter or whatever it was. It was a superstar makes a shocking debut. Like, they didn't drop the name there either. I love Ricky Starks. I have known him for over a decade. I'm not going to say we're friends and we talk all the time or anything, but I was literally wrestling with him as he was coming up in Texas a long time ago. Super talented, super charismatic, has all the tools you need. Would probably do very well in WWE. I think he fits more of their mold than what AEW likes to do.
I agree.
And that's not a knock on anything he does. I just think some guys are better suited for certain styles. And I think it'll be good. But if you're going to change his name, I think you are putting him behind the 8 ball to start out with. I don't think there's something better you can call him than Ricky Starks.
I feel like 2025, we're aware enough. Yeah, there's a little bit of pettiness back and forth, specifically from Tony Khan's and Triple H. They throw little jabs at each other, a little too much, my take. But the reality is, it is two separate products, and they really are two separate audiences. There's not a ton of crossover between the two. I think we found that. The fact that moving and doing streamings and all this stuff, more or less, numbers have not gigantically shifted for either company by doing any of this. Which tells me your audience is your audience, and that's going to be your audience. I also think that everybody's smart enough to know that there's another company out there. You don't need to play the old shadow game bullshit we did back in the fucking 90s, right? And they've already brought down that wall a little bit, right? I just get over it. Let's move past that. And yes, some people, cool, you want to reinvent them. I get it, right? But somebody like a Ricky Starks, when people know who he is, good, that's his name. Right, you weren't going to change Cody Rhodes' name when he came back to WWE. You were going to call him Starkid again, or whatever the fuck, Stardust.
Stardust.
You know? Starkid.
It's not the return of Stardust. Oh my God! You know, it's like, just yeah. That's what I'm just. You know,
I mean, if you're gonna let Stephanie Vaquer be Stephanie Vaquer, you can let Ricky Starks be Ricky Starks.
Exactly.
So. I think you guys are looking at it from a different lens than me, because I think, honestly, WWE did something very ingenious by not saying his name and made sure that the fans said his name.
Okay.
You know, I don't think they're changing his name. I think it was a matter of everybody's buzzing about him, and they didn't have to say who he is. Which, for Ricky, gives him that much more star power, because when he hit, there was a good pop, and people are like, "Oh my God, that's Ricky Starks!" You know, like, and they the Ricky Starks chant, and everybody's like, and he's like, "You know who I am," and all this stuff. Like, it was great. I don't think he's changing his name. I think it was 100% just to ensure everybody and their mother knew that he came to WWE without having to say he did, which is kind of a flex.
I disagree. I could understand commentary not saying it in the moment and letting the crowd chant it, but not having him say it, not putting it when you put that out on social media and stuff, that seems very much like that's not going to be his name in there, and them not wanting to establish it. There was also a report came out, they had trademarked a bunch of different names. I don't even remember what they even were or anything. It also, this could just be me having absolutely zero faith in WWE to do the right thing at any given time, where I feel like they're going to change his name.
The
Like,
man has been bitten.
The benefit of the doubt, it just has never worked out.
The man has been bitten a few too many times, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh no!
I gotta keep going back to, this is the company that before The Fiend and Seth Rollins had their Hell in the Cell match, and was like, how do you think this is going to be end? And one of the answers was DQ, and everyone commented, do not do a DQ in a Hell in a Cell match. And they were like, bet. And they did a DQ in a Hell in a Cell match. Like, that's what they do.
Well, that's also from a guy who's no longer there. So
it's the same company, man.
I know.
It ain't that different.
And Big Rob, to your point there, I know if you're I know for a fact it's not his real name.
It is not.
But my biggest plight about this whole thing, and that's kind of where it came from, my petty part of my heart, which quite frankly is kind of a big part of my heart, so I found out.
Part of my heart.
I am so over the WWE toxic fan base, and quite frankly, AEW's got a toxic fan base as well. I'm not trying to say one's better than the other, but the ones who just draw the line in the sand, like, oh, he's trash. Penta was never good. That guy, all he does is flippy, spinny shit, and then he comes over. He's gonna be a humongous star, blah blah blah, just because he came over to the WWE machine. He was already one before. You are going to use your machine to make him that much bigger. Yes, you have a bigger fan base. You have a bigger everything. And the fact that he was shit when he was somewhere else, but now all of a sudden he's amazing. Like, come on now. Mm-hmm. Come on now. They said the same thing about Jade. Jade can't wrestle. It's like, cool. 80% of your women couldn't wrestle either. Like let's be real. But she's an attraction. So when she came over, oh, that's the best women's fighting of all time. Like, dude, it's okay. It's okay to like other stuff. It's okay the fact that they can just admit that they make good stars. Like if Hanger came over to WWE, he'd be gargantuan.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it. Like, come on. It's okay. It's okay to admit that, Xbox makes good games, even though you're a PlayStation guy.
So I'm gonna apply some of my trademark logic here for constructive purposes.
Fuck.
No, this is gonna be for constructive purposes.
Okay.
For in the sake of just protecting your own peace. When people say things like that, don't take them seriously because they don't believe it. They're just talking shit on the internet.
I know.
This is like everyone after Sunday saying that Pat Mahomes had ruined his legacy by being god-awful in the Super Bowl, which he was.
He was.
People just like throwing out hot takes on the internet and then just, because it's not specific to wrestling, it's not specific to AEW or WWE, it's literally anything that has a following, has a bunch of fans that like to go on the internet and just troll people and say shit just to say it, just to defend the thing they like. And they don't actually believe it. You can't take those people seriously because it's just silliness. It's all just silly.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just over it. Just over it.
I hear you. Well, we've all said at one point or another that Ricky is a good spot for AEW. I think there are some other wrestlers that are currently in AEW that are WWE. I think there's currently some wrestlers in AEW that would be better in WWE. And I think there's some people over in WWE that would be better in AEW. Okay? And you got people that can do both. I think Sammy Vakur and Penta are two prime examples of that. So
I do gotta say, we got some unfortunate news last week in the potentially jumping ships category. Not that this was likely or going to happen. Kevin Owens signed a new 5-year deal with WWE. And if there was anyone,
surprise me.
If there was anyone that I would love to see in AEW in WWE, it would be Kevin Owens.
It'd be AJ Styles for me.
I'm with Jamie.
I think AJ probably happens.
I do too.
Not anytime soon, but I do think we get an AJ victory lap in AEW.
You get a Bryan Danielson style AJ Styles run.
Yeah, I think that one's likely. Kevin Owens got another 5 years there, but man, there's just so many fun things you could do with him in AEW. I mean, he's getting hella paid and like good for him, man. Make your money, do what's best for you, but just selfishly, I would love to see Kevin Owens in AEW.
And Robin Chat puts in a good point there, but your coworker. That's what we're talking about. Those are the people that it's just like, hey, it's 2025. There is another wrestling company. It's fine to acknowledge things. You've heard us. Our show is predicated on AEW. That's why we have it on Wednesday nights. about a half hour after AEW Dynamite's over. Shocking, I know, right? But it's okay to admit things from the other place. And even if it's not your cup of tea, no worries. You can say that, you know? Somebody comes over, somebody doesn't. It's not the end of the world. This is...
Yeah, I mean, Austin still doesn't really like most of the WWE, like, weekly episodic stuff. Of course, we all watch the PLEs, but he's not on the internet going, "Oh, this show's shit, blah blah blah. I hate everything."
Reddick also posts almost nothing on the internet, but sharing flyers that I'm on. I don't contribute to the nonsense. I do observe it because there is a lot of quality content out there. But I am one of, if you don't have something particularly interesting or important to say, just shut up. And that's what I do most of the time. I don't post much on the internet.
I don't know who needs to hear this, like, as we talk about other stuff, but Alex Windsor and Athena are going to wrestle each other on Saturday for a Ring of Honor match. I'm really sad about that.
Okay, there we go.
I've only seen one Alex Windsor match, and it was against Miyu Watanabe, I think is Watanabe. I forget how to say her last name.
Yeah,
the
Watanabe.
Big strong lady from TJPW, and that was a very fun match.
Well, there may be some other wrestling on Saturday. So we already know about Grand Slam Collision. Jamie just told you about some Ring of Honor. There's potentially some wrestling in Leavenworth. We say potentially because the greater Kansas City metropolitan area is supposed to get weather on Saturday. Maybe ice, maybe the show, we don't know yet. But right now it's on. So if you want to see a member of this dais that is not Jamie or myself actually wrestle live in person and you're in Kansas City, Leavenworth, Saturday night.
Heartland Championship Wrestling at the Leavenworth Local Hotel. HCW's always a good time, so assuming the KC metro area doesn't ice over and become dangerous to get to, come out and see some wrestling. And you know what? If weather happens, and just to be clear, there is no indication that the show is not going on. I did not know there was going to be weather in Kansas City until slightly before we went live tonight, so we'll keep an eye on it. But should worst case scenario happen and either that not go down or maybe you can't make it, there is also next Saturday right here in Wichita, Kansas, HCW as well.
Yeah. The following week. I'm going to try to make it this one legit this time. Hopefully there's no circumstances like last time. Praying for that one.
Hope, knock on wood, because we're still a few weeks out from Jamie going into full softball mode.
We got a month. We got a little bit over a month.
I know your toes starting to point at the pool there, almost dipping it in, but we got about a month here, and
we just practice every week, once a week, and we have all other stuff.
You're dabbling, but yeah. So, but we got actually a good amount of wrestling coming up. So, HCW in Leavenworth got weather permitting, of course, this weekend. Next weekend down in Wichita, we got Fountain City Pro. Friendly reminder for all you local in Kansas City, Fountain City's returning 2025 show is the 14th of March. So about a month out. We're just right about a month out. Friday the 14th at the Bell Event Center. The Ball Event Center. As soon as I said it, I go, nope, I fucked it up again. I don't know why I always mix Bell and Ball. Bell and Ball. I have no idea, right? The Ball Event Center in Olathe, Kansas, as where they're returning. There's potential that there might be some other places this year, but the Ball Event Center is a great place to go. And then we got GCW at the end of the month in March. There's a bunch of other stuff going on. Lots of wrestling happening. Austin's doing a death match with his wife sometime in the near future in Chicago. So, yeah.
Yeah, I should have more information on that. I would imagine next week when we regroup. But yeah, I will be wrestling in Chicago for the first time on March 1st. more information to follow. But having been born in Chicago, I've yet to wrestle there, so it'll be nice.
You never wrestled in Chicago at all?
Never wrestled in Chicago, man.
Fun town. I love it.
So it'll be a good time.
Real good wrestling scene.
Friday, March 7th, Lucha Libre and Laughs is back at the Oriental Theater in Denver.
Yeah.
Tickets are moving fast, so if you are near Denver or for some reason planning to make a trip out there, which we always say you should do because Triple L is the greatest pro wrestling show you'll ever go to, you want to jump on that sooner rather than later. So yeah, a lot of pro wrestling coming up. Oh, also next Friday, the 21st, I think it is, in Denver, is Respect Women's Wrestling is running another show. Heidi Alter and Emi Sakura in the main event.
I'm really excited about that one.
That's worth your money alone right there.
But that Triple L match, that Triple L show, I will say this because we do have some locals. Cody Hallett's official last match. He said it's legit his last match ever.
Cody versus Naya.
Yep.
Brothers collide.
Yep. I don't think it's going to be like his last match. I think this is legit.
No, he's already said no gimmicks, no BS. This is legit.
Real last match.
That last match was he got us all good. He got us real good.
Yeah, he's trying to Ric Flair us.
But I think before we wrap up talking some pro wrestling tonight, I think I wore the shirt, so I think it would be remiss if I didn't drop a little knowledge.
End with a little knowledge.
We're doing a little knowledge, and not just some knowledge, but this is a everyone gets to participate kind of stash.
Ooh, I like
this one is brought to you by a post I saw on Facebook the other day.
I thought you were gonna say a letter.
No.
Brought to you by the letter.
I gotta think. I'm gonna think of that and do that as a gimmick sometime. This is brought. I gotta have the right thing for that.
Yes. You do.
This one, I did see a notable name on the indie wrestling scene. Not necessarily a in-ring competitor, although he was, but someone that's like well known among indie wrestlers. Doesn't matter who, so I'm not gonna name drop it. But they threw out a post that was just, what do you miss, or what would you like to see brought back in pro wrestling?
Ooh.
And I got to start by addressing the very first comment I saw on that, and then I'm going to give my answer to that, and then I would like to hear y'all's answer to that.
Okay.
Awesome.
But the knowledge is going to come first, because this is important knowledge, and I want to make sure we all understand something about pro wrestling as a whole. Historically, the entire depth and depth and just history of pro wrestling. The very first comment to that was a gentleman chiming in saying, I miss when wrestling looked like a real fight. And just in case anyone listening to us or listening in the future might be confused about this, I've got to make sure this is explicitly clear. Pro wrestling has never looked like a real fight. If you want to disagree with me, go watch Harley Race bump. Go watch any Harley Race match where he's falling backwards over the top rope and just selling like a jackass. And I mean that in the most entertaining way possible. But Harley Race, one of the legit toughest men to ever step into a wrestling ring, even when he was in there, pro wrestling never looked like a fight. If you thought it did, it's because you were 6 when you were watching and you just didn't know any better. But we need to put that to rest. It didn't look more real back in the day. If anything, it looked sillier back in the day. Go watch them clothesline people by just running into someone with an arm out and having them totter over into a back bump. And then go watch Manders lariat someone today and tell me it used to look more like a real fight. It never did, nor was it ever meant to. This is entertainment. And real fighting, if you watch UFC, which I do, they have a show pretty much every weekend now. Most of the fights are boring. Real fights are not that interesting. Some of them are really entertaining, but a lot of times just guys standing a few feet away from each other just kind of, and you might get one cool move. But let's put to rest the wrestling used to look like a real fight. I missed when it looked real. It never looked real. It was never supposed to look real. And looking real, that is not entertaining.
Do you think he might have meant like Bruno Sammartini old, like, when it was like wrestling?
When it was two dudes trading headlocks for 35 minutes,
Yes.
that didn't look real either.
Okay, all
As
right.
someone
Just
that
making
was
sure.
an amateur wrestler and wrestled for real in high school and college, real wrestling doesn't fill the bleachers. Like, no one wants to go see two dudes just kind of hugging each other for 6 minutes at a time. It's not supposed to look real. It's supposed to be entertaining. So let's just put that to bed. But rant aside, my answer for the thing I would like to see come back in pro wrestling, picture-in-picture promos. Give me someone doing a squash match and the person they're feuding with popping up in a little box and talking some shit about them while the match is going on. I want to see that come back. What do y'all would like to see?
JJ?
Everybody out there assumes I'm going to say the six-sided ring, and you're not wrong. But no, I'm going a little more grandiose than that. Okay? I want to see, I think NXT dabbled in this a little bit, but I want to see more themes. Period. I want to see themed, and not that stupid, like Texas Chainsaw bullshit match, right? I want to see whole entire shows that are themed big, right? Big stage productions like floats and shit, right? I want to see, WWE did a little thing where they did like the whole like the Mid-South or whatever bullshit, like side project, and then TNA did something similar to it, right? I think that the Southpaw, thank you, right? I want to see. I feel like it's gotten like so like sporting entertainment, or it's just like some of the fun and the jovialness of everybody's on board with it, Halloween Havoc with the giant stages and in your house and all that stuff. Like I said, NXT's done a little bit of that, but I want to see that like on the main, on the big stage, just go all out, like really selling, big, themes and all that stuff. That's what I would say I want to see come back.
Yeah, like, would it kill them to truck in a few loads of sand for an entranceway for a summer beach theme pay-per-view
yes.
like they used to do Bash at the Beach?
Absolutely. And then maybe also do the six-sided ring back in TNA. All right, Jamie.
I think mine's pretty simple and a little boring, but bring back the actual real Survivor Series match.
Yes.
Like the old school elimination, 5-on-5, 6-on-6, whichever one, because we've had both, of just random top heels, random mid heels, whatever, against top guys, mid guys, whatever. Even have like Team USA versus whatever. Like, just bring it back. Like, that was just so fun. Like, that elimination style was just it. I know you have the Elimination Chamber, which is kind of almost replaced it a little bit, but nah, like, bring back the Survivor Series.
Yeah, nothing beats those old Survivor Series matches, especially because you would like the early ones where every match on the show was a 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 elimination. And they would just get in there and just kind of wrestle around. And then, like, when it's time to get eliminated, you might just get clotheslined and pinned. And you're just out. And, like, I always enjoyed that. Just transitional moves, getting people out of the match so we just kind of whittle the shit down.
Right. And one match always going to have, like, 1-on-4 at some point, right? And that guy's going to end up being the one who wins. And, How about
Rob in the chat wanting to bring back the cinematic match? I agree. They did some really good ones.
There's been some great ones.
The Money in the Bank at WWE headquarters was one of the most fun things WWE has done in recent memory.
Fun.
That's getting turned into an apartment building. Did you hear that?
I saw that.
Yep.
You know,
to see who owns
Vince's office.
This
make
is clearly
make that a utility room, please, for the love of God.
This is certainly not modern, but this it's not necessarily a match per se, but speaking of cinematic things in pro wrestling, before we wrap this up, I did see something this past weekend, just going back and watch some old wrestling as I do way more than any almost 40-year-old man should. The lead up to Beach Blast 1993, which was the pay-per-view WCW did literally on a beach. And they're building up to their big matches with Vader versus the Bulldog and Sting versus Sid. And it's a random episode of Saturday Night a week or two before that. I want to say it was late June of 93, somewhere around there. There is a 10 to 15 minute long, and I'm actually glad Big Rob mentioned cinematic matches. I meant to talk about this tonight because it was the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen on a pro wrestling show.
Wow.
There is a 10 to 15 minute long cinematic promo segment for those big matches that are leading up to pay-per-view. It starts with Sting and Bulldog on the beach playing volleyball with a bunch of kids being baby faces, just having a good time. They're out there in the sun. They're having a great time.
Just playing volleyball.
I see JJ laughing. Maybe you saw this, but if not, go back and watch this. So
I'm familiar with parts of this. I do remember this.
They're just playing volleyball, just kind of talking about how nice it is to be out in the sun, having a good time. They cut to Vader, Psycho Sid, Colonel Robert Parker, and Harley Race on a boat. And it's not just like a speedboat. It's like the landers they use at D-Day, where it's got the back hatch to unload them. They are on the boat heading to whatever island Sting and British Bull are playing volleyball on to start some trouble. And they're cutting their heel promos about how they're going to beat them up at Beach Blast and all that. From there, it cuts to two kids just playing in the water. A midget with a snorkel and a shark fin swims up, comes out of the water, says something mean to the kids, pulls out a bomb, a like 1960s Batman style where it looks like the stick of dynamite with the clock on it, and runs over to a speedboat parked on the side. We then cut back to our baby faces, still playing volleyball, still hanging out with the kids, being baby faces. When the D-Day lander with the heels rolls up on the beach, the back opens up. Sid and Vader walk out. Psycho Sid is in full gear, except he's wearing flip-flops instead of boots because he's got to make this aquatic landing through the beach to go confront Sting and the British Bulldog. Vader's in his full gear, but he's wearing like the title boxing boots workout shoes instead of his boots because, again, they got to traipse through the water and the sand. They come up. They start talking to Bulldog and Sting about how they're going to beat them and they should just quit. And Sting turns to Bulldog. He's like, I don't know, man. They're so big. Maybe we should. Maybe we should just give up. Not. Because it's 1993 and not jokes were very much a thing at the time. Vader and Sid get all mad about it. And then they leave on their aquatic amphibious lander boat. And then the little kids run up and they're like, some angry man was hanging out by the boat. And Sting's like, by the boat? I got to go check this out. So he's going and he's looking on the boat. It cuts to a picture of the stick of dynamite bomb with the clock ticking down. You see Bulldog full sprinting across the beach and he shoulder tackles Sting off of the boat just as it explodes. And this is like the entire 10-minute long promo segment to lead up to Beach Blast. If you have not seen it, it's WCW Saturday Night. I think it was like June 19th, but look around there. You'll find it. It's on Peacock. Go watch this because it's the greatest thing I've ever seen produced on a pro wrestling show.
That's amazing.
It's so good.
That is amazing.
I remember parts of that. I definitely remember parts of that. I mean, it felt like a really bad episode of Miami Vice even back then.
It's exactly what it was. It's one of those things that like it starts, you're like, oh, it's just a promo with Sting and Bulldog on the beach. Like, that's cool. And it just keeps going. And it just gets more ridiculous as it goes. And then afterwards, you're like, what the hell did I just watch?
A Big Rob wants to see contract signings like they used to be with the lawyers looking over the contracts over the shoulders.
Those, yeah, that probably.
Yeah, good old contract signings.
Dude, the Outrunners would be the ones to pull that.
Outrunners 100% do like early because beach volleyball, that was always the thing, right? We're out there just playing volleyball on the beach. Wait, what? Who does what?
Give me more off-site promos in general. Give me people cutting promos just out in the world doing stuff, and then like the heels running up on them. Like there's tons of good stuff you can do.
Yeah, I mean it's like we reach a day in this day and age, we should be able to do some just really ridiculous ass shit and make it look good for whatever you want promo wise, right? Well,
which in that vein, not exactly the same thing, but I do appreciate that AEW runs angles at indie shows because they recapped that on Collision as well. We're back to Collision again. It was so good. We've touched on it 14 times throughout the night. They showed the clip from Defy, I think it was last weekend, where Swerve attacked Ricochet, which is great that they do like little angles at these random indie shows.
All right. Well, anything else you got, Jamie?
No, that was a great way to end the show.
We want to hear you guys. Give us your comments down and below. Hit us up on Twitter on Blue Sky at Total Spot Fest. If this is your first time here, please, we'd love to see you back. Hit that subscribe button. If it is or is not your first time, give us a big old thumbs up. Smash that thumbs up button. Helps us out quite a bit. We do appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving us some of your time. We'll be back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. We'll find out what happens in Australia and make the full turn for
Revolution.
I don't know. This one always fucks me. I can't
Crushed it. Crushed that outro.
I was so good until the very end. It was perfect until the end, but that's what we got. Jamie, take us home, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not down with Total Spot Fest, I got 6 words for you. I knew you guys wouldn't get that one. And new TBS champion, Harley Cameron.
It's going to happen.
Hopefully. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Later.